Ladies and gentlemen, how do?
Hello and welcome to Mondo Street Social Club, a new podcast aimed at bringing creative minds together. Mondo Street is about sharing the creative process, discussing the highs and lows, and talking about how we cope when the creative genie eludes us. Pull up your comfy chair, put in your best headphones, and enjoy the next hour. Hello and welcome to Mondo Street Social Club. Tonight's guest is Carol Hodge, singer, songwriter, multi-talented. The number of bands that you play in, Carol, is quite breathtaking. And I must say that your new album has gone right to the top of my listen, and listen again list. So welcome.
Thank you. That's quite an accolade to be at the top of that list.
You haven't seen the competition yet, so
well, irrespective, I'm still honoured.
That's great. So yeah, so the social club is really just about getting artists from different walks of life, different disciplines together to talk about their experiences of being creative, of their highs and lows, their ability to deal with a lack of creativity or anything that has formed an obstacle in their way of moving forward. So do you want to give us a little potted history of who you are, how you got into music, and how you got to where you are now?
Right. Well, potted Hodge history then.
Yeah.
So I started playing in bands in 1997 when I was 15 years old, and very quickly started writing songs for bands. As a teenager, my main band was kind of like I guess like a ska punk band, really. And then when I got into my 20s, I started playing in more of a sort of emo-y metal, ended up sounding a bit like Nine Inch Nails kind of band.
Okay, yeah.
And then basically moved onto a band called Bad Taste Barbies, which was various people who had been in other bands before and tried really hard to get somewhere. And we were all feeling a bit bitter and disillusioned. So we formed that band, and it was basically just a party band. And it's, up until that point, it was the most successful thing I'd done, I think largely because none of us cared and we just wanted to have fun, and that kind of rubbed off on the audience.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, I joined Steve Ignorant's Last Supper band. Yep. So that was a really big step up for me. So we toured America and Canada, Australia and New Zealand, and then we played Shepherd's Bush Empire, touring the songs of Crass.
Yep.
And since then, been in a couple of other bands. I started doing Slice of Life with Steve Ignorant in 2012, I think it was. And that's like an acoustic band with new songs and old songs that Steve's written. And I also play now in his The Ignorant Band, which is us touring the songs of Crass again. Yeah. And I do solo stuff. So I play solo, which is just me and a piano. I sing and I play piano. I also have the Carol Hodge Band, which is me being joined by a bassist, drummer, and guitarist. And I also play with Ben Marsden. I've just started doing a duet with him. So Ben plays guitar in loads of bands, including for Warner E. Hodges from Jason and the Scorchers. Yep. And that's kind of some of my songs acoustic, some of his songs acoustic. We do a Chaz and Dave cover. And we're doing loads of gigs with Ginger Wildheart. Woo! Sorry, I don't know why that happened. Like around the UK, like this year. And so that's kind of me at the moment.
Yeah.
I hope that wasn't too rambly.
No, it's amazing because when I listen to your albums, one of the last bands I would kind of like associate with is Crass.
Yeah.
Because when I was, me and my friends, when we were 15, 10,000 years ago, we were big fans of Crass. We were in a band and we did a cover of Gasman Cometh.
Nice.
It wasn't very good, but to us it sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
And Crass was such an aggressive sounding band.
Yeah.
that it is quite. It's quite a change for me to hear them being done acoustically and gently. They've lost none of the sting,
Yeah,
yeah, because it's all in the lyrics.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean, with Slice of Life, which is the acoustic project I do with Steve, um, we've kind of always done crash songs as part of the set at the end, just to sort of keep people happy,
yeah,
basically. Because when we first started doing it, in particular, people were really confused that we weren't just playing crash songs.
sure, sure.
So I think Steve felt a bit insecure about that, so he wanted to have them there just in case we
Mm,
needed them.
yeah,
And yeah, because he always intends to sing quite gently, and he always thinks he's going to be crooning, but he
yeah,
never
yeah.
does. He just absolutely goes hell for leather, and we're all just playing acoustic guitar and bass and piano, trying to keep up with him.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's all very much about the energy. In Slice of Life, when we do the Crass stuff, it's all about Steve and how he
yeah,
delivers the vocals that makes it still sound like Crass.
yeah, yeah. And it is such a big change from your work. That particularly the new album has got such a big sound to it on some of the tracks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Phil Spector, that wall of sound, because that wall
Mm.
of sound is very cliched now. But you've layered up, like in which track is it? Is in Silhouettes, where you've got, is it a theremin in the background?
It's a musical saw.
A musical saw. There
Yeah,
you go.
musical saw and bass flute,
Bass
along with
flute,
my
right?
piano and vocals. Yeah.
Yeah, because that
I
is it.
oh no, I was gonna say I actually quite like Phil Spector's wall of sound.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't consider that a cliche.
Right. Okay. I
Consider it
shall give
a
you that one
compliment.
then. Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to pick on the silhouettes as well. I mentioned
Mm.
before we started that listening to it, there was a line that stood out for me, which summed up what you want to do to somebody.
Yeah.
But did it in such a way that I just thought it was genius. So it's the song Silhouettes. It's time that I politely but firmly turn the volume down on you. I just think that is brilliant.
Yeah.
I just love it. Well done.
Thank you. Well, yeah, it was very much I was thinking back to a prior situation when I wrote that lyric, but it
Yeah.
just felt like, yeah, it's quite a non-aggressive way of dealing with
Definitely.
somebody. And
Definitely.
it's often something that I feel myself doing in my head.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling very drained by a situation, I'm just like, mentally pressing the remote
Yeah.
control and letting them get quieter and
Yeah.
quieter.
And that's what I've been doing ever since I heard that
Yeah.
song.
Oh, I'm glad it inspires
Yeah.
you. That's brilliant.
It is something that comes up very graphically in your
Mm,
mind when somebody's giving it a little bit of spout.
yeah.
And yeah, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had remote controls for humans? That would be
Yeah,
that'd be
just
brilliant.
pointing them at people all day.
Yeah, yeah.
Complete
Oh.
strangers in the supermarket, just like, just turn it down, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. Shush now, love. Move on, please. That'd be fantastic. So you're touring at the moment then. How's that going for you? You finding that are the punters are coming out, they're receiving the new music well?
Yeah, it's to be honest, I feel like I'm just starting to get going with gigs this year. Been quite quiet since December.
Yeah.
But looking at my calendar now, I can see that sort of end of April onwards, things start getting a bit busier for me,
Yeah.
live wise. To be honest, it's been a little bit hit and miss with audiences.
Okay.
I don't know if that's just me experiencing that because nobody wants to come to my gigs. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's particularly difficult still at grassroots level to get enough pre-sales
Yeah.
to make you not be sweating like mad on the night.
Mm.
I mean, I've not done any embarrassing gigs this year where there's
Yeah.
been nobody there, but it's felt like, yeah, not as easy as it has done in the past.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, you'd hope that since the pandemic is now, I suppose it's officially over,
mm.
that people will be getting bums back on seats.
Yeah, but people are skint now, aren't they? So
Well,
that's
and
the
that
other
is the
issue.
that is the other side of the coin, isn't it?
Yeah,
The slaughter of the economy. I think somebody should write a book called that.
very visceral, very accurate though, isn't it?
Oh, it is, isn't it? Hasn't it just? It's taken the wind out of everybody. We had 2 years of compression where all we saw was ourselves and four walls.
Yeah.
To now moving into something where we can't afford to go past the four walls.
Well,
It's,
yeah, that's what I mean. So it's just so I'm kind of debating what the solution is really.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I like the idea of gigs, and I have done a couple of gigs like this recently, which were very successful. Of people just donating what they can
Yeah.
instead of there being a fixed door price.
Hmm.
Because I think sometimes people do the maths and they're like, well, if it's 10, 15 pounds to get in,
Yeah.
even to a small gig, then they maybe can't afford to do that. But if it's donation and they're there anyway, they might chuck a tenner in, and think that's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
reasonable. It's weird. It's all about context, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Because I suppose it's better to have 40% of something than 0% of everything.
Yeah, and you want
Yeah.
people in the room. You want an audience to play
Yeah.
to. Everybody does. So yeah,
Yeah. That pricing model reminds me of. I'm sorry, harking back to Crass again, but
yeah,
I remember when one of the, I think it was Big A Little A when that came out. It was almost like a newspaper folded over several times with a single in it.
yeah,
I'm sure it had something like pay no more than 40p for it or something like that to
yeah. They
try.
had that on like all the albums and everything. It's a pay no
Yeah,
more than
yeah,
yeah,
it was which is that kind of starting that movement to try and cut out the gross profits.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
stick a middle finger up to the record labels by saying this is how much things should cost, really, because we can do
yeah,
it. So
yeah.
why can't you?
Just don't put your tickets through Ticketmaster. Oof, yeah, no,
Well, yeah, there's that whole thing, isn't there?
there
Is
is,
it
there
Gary
is.
Newman?
Well, I think it was. Oh, we're going to have a bit of a. I think Metallica did something, and Taylor Swift. There was something to do with her as well,
Right.
and Ticketmaster. I think the Taylor Swift one was they were selling tickets that had already been sold.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah, but the markup on Ticketmaster is offensive.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The Gary Newman thing. So he was deliberately, I think he was selling tickets at £20 a pop,
Wow.
deliberately keeping his prices
Yeah,
low, but then Ticketmaster fees
yeah,
literally doubled the price. So
yeah,
people were up in arms about it. So he was like, hang on, this is what
yeah,
actually happened. So I think that kind of blew the lid on it a little bit as well.
yeah. 20 quid to see Gary Newman. That'll be a hell of a night out.
Yeah, but what would it be
Ooh.
for? I mean, even 40 quid would be,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah. Is that his acoustic tour?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
really, really good. That yeah, he's a proper artist. He is.
yeah.
So do you come from like a musical family?
No, not at all.
No.
So yeah, my parents, they're both they both like music. My dad in
Yeah,
particular was a music fan.
yeah,
So, we always had like good records on the go when I was
yeah.
younger. So I was kind of surrounded by music, I guess, in my home.
Mhm.
Um and my brother was briefly in a sludgecore band
A
that
sludge
did quite
core.
well. So he was a sort of like growly vocalist.
Yeah.
But no, I don't have any relatives that are
Mm.
well known. Although people think I'm related to Chaz Hodges from Chaz and Dave,
Oh, right. Okay.
even
And
though we have different surnames, just
yeah.
because we both play piano. Like I don't know where that comes from, but yeah, that's my
That-
closest thing.
so somebody's playing word association there and not understanding the
Yeah,
rules.
yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Yeah, because I've always wondered whether there's some kind of, obviously not DNA that gets into different realms, but where does creativity come from? If it's not, it's nature, not nurture.
Yeah,
Yeah. And if you don't come from a creative background, what is it that makes you or the next person move forward into a creative field,
yeah.
and the next person go and work in a bank?
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've always I've always been aware from a really young age because I used to be really into like art. I used to do loads and loads of drawing when I was younger,
Yeah.
and I was really good at it, especially
Yeah.
for such a young age.
Hmm.
And I kind of lost touch with that when I really got into music. But I think I've always been aware that I get um I get something out of doing it. So I get my catharsis
Yeah.
when I write or perform or
Hmm.
create.
Yeah.
So even when I didn't understand what catharsis was, I still knew that it made me, it helped heal me
Yeah.
and helped, soothe me.
Yeah.
And that was why I kept coming back to it, that feeling of like, oh, I feel a bit better now,
Yeah.
So that's always been there for me.
And that can be almost like a bit of an addiction, can't it? If you're getting your endorphin rush, or you're getting that soothing from when you
Yeah.
create, the more you create, the more you soothe.
Yeah, and it's a really good addiction to have.
Oh God,
sort of
yeah.
writing
it's
songs or whatever. Yeah,
it's one of the less harmful ones, isn't it? It's not too good on the wallet if you start buying lots of kit. But
yeah, that's true.
yeah, but that's really good. That's always something I've thought about. Where does creativity come from? Because
Mm,
that line that I referenced before of yours from Silhouettes, that is to me that's a classic example of creativity. It's not a line that's been used before. It's not a rehash or a mash of a line that's been used
mm.
before. To me, that is something that's come purely from you, and can only have come out of your head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's something I have got quite good at over the years is articulating what is true to me
yeah,
without worrying about putting a filter on it for an audience. I
right.
think that's my main strength as a songwriter is to be able to say I guess sometimes, like you say, you pick that line, like sometimes in quite a unique way, what is
Yeah,
very authentic to me and what is very honestly going on
yeah,
in my head. Because that's what every writer's biggest asset is, being an individual, unique person with unique experiences and a unique view on the world. We all have that. So
yeah.
it's about how do you put that into a song in a way that's real,
Mm.
and hasn't been, you know, doctored so much that it becomes banal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for using my favorite word in the English language.
Doctored.
No, banal. Doctored. Thanks for
Yeah.
that. We'll just giggle for that for a few minutes. So when you started playing with all of these different artists and different bands, did you ever go through a period of time where you worried about whether you were good enough, whether you'd kind of, I don't know, got your way in there, or did you have confidence straight away that you could keep your own within them?
Oh no, absolutely not. I still suffer very badly from imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I've just been asked to be part of a new project for a theatre show that's running in August, and my immediate thought was like, "Oh wow, I'm really flattered to be asked to do this, and I love the music, and I'm really excited." And then my next immediate thought was like, "Well, they're all going to be like proper professional musicians, and I'm there playing keys. Oh
Yeah.
no." Um, but yeah, absolutely, and especially because you know I'm a piano player, but I only have 7 fingers,
Mm.
so I'm aware that from the outside it's quite preposterous and it seems a bit ridiculous. Um, so yeah, I do I do suffer a lot from imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But then it's usually the sort of thing of like once I get in a room with people, like once I get rehearsing with a band,
Yeah.
absolutely fine, and I
Yeah.
calm down and I relax. And I realise that, all those little bits of songs where I'm like, oh, I keep messing this bit up or I can't remember this bit. It all just slots into place. And I
Yeah.
find myself having loads of fun with it and adding little bits in straight away.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's just the anticipation of the gig or the tour or the rehearsal
Yeah.
that plants that seed of doubt.
Mhm.
And the same with being on stage. It's like if there's any nerves before going on,
Yeah.
they all kind of evaporate as soon as I get into the first song. It's like, oh, I do this all the time. It's fine. Yeah.
Plus a nice kick of adrenaline as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that always
Yeah.
helps,
Yeah.
definitely.
Which is another thing that people get addicted to as well. Let's
Oh
stop
yeah.
talking about addiction, shall we? Bloody hell.
Yeah. Catharsis.
Catharsis.
Adrenaline. Yeah. Tension. Absolutely.
You mentioned the pianist with 7 fingers.
Yeah.
The cover of The Crippling Space Between.
Mm.
Yeah. Where did that come from? Because I think that's really quite clever.
Yeah, so basically, I used to be a piano teacher as well, which
Okay.
again is even more preposterous. So I teach students online, and sometimes with the more advanced students, because I'm a little bit dyspraxic, I would really struggle to think of the sort of fingering, like because obviously in piano your fingers are number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your thumbs are 1,
Yeah.
and then pointy fingers are 2, moving
Yeah.
out. So sometimes with my because I don't have the full 5 fingers, sometimes I'd be like, which finger is it? So I bought a couple of fake hands on Amazon, right?
Right.
And these were they're basically for nail technicians to
Okay.
practice painting nails. So I had these 2 spare hands, so I could
Yeah.
try and like figure out what fingers would be what.
Yeah.
And I just took them to the photo shoot for the album. And I worked with a great photographer called Deb Ellis.
Yeah.
And I was just like, she was like, "Oh, do you want to do something with one of those hands?" And I was like, "Yeah." So it's just like I'm pulling it off, sort of thing,
Yeah.
you know.
It's almost like a ta-da.
Yeah, it's like a magic trick, but
Yeah.
with a little bit of a raised eyebrow for the camera, sort of thing.
It's a cracking picture, and I think it shows the the confidence that that this is you.
Yeah,
You're not going to hide anything.
and it's
It-
absurd, and I recognise it's absurd,
Yeah.
and I think life is absurd, and I think
Yeah.
you've got to have fun and not take yourself too seriously.
Oh, totally.
I'm very self-deprecating, which I realise now as an adult is probably a trauma response, basically. But that's part of my personality, and I'm very northern and
Yeah.
very sarcastic, and I'm not apologetic about that. I think it's
I
like you
don't
say,
think
it's good to be yourself.
Yeah, I don't think you should be apologetic. I think the thing is that everything that you've put out in the public domain, you've done that, with respect. You've done it with clarity and honesty.
Mm,
You shouldn't try and hide any of that. There's enough bands and artists out there that do that. We don't need another one that puts up a fake persona to
yeah.
corporatize their next mega hit or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm definitely not trying to be cool and trying to be something I'm not. I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd rather be funny
Yeah.
and be laughed at and be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'd rather people think, oh, she's just a normal person, or not
Yeah.
normal,
Yeah.
but she's like down to earth and doesn't
Yeah.
take herself too seriously. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather be accessible and honest than trying to. It must be exhausting trying to be really cool all the time.
Yeah, I did an interview with a friend of mine today for the podcast, a guy called
Yeah.
Tommy Taylor. He was known for the past couple of years as being a country and western, or country, don't call it country western anymore, a country artist, and he was quite successful at it. He was making good headway until he woke up one morning and realized that it wasn't him.
Yeah,
He'd written some songs which he felt fitted into that, which were then consumed by a manager, which were then rolled into a product,
yeah,
and then this Tommy in inverted commas was spat out of the machine at the other end, and
right.
he walked
Yeah,
away from it all, and I've got massive respect for him, because what he's doing now is he's taken 6 months in the studio, not doing anything in the public eye,
yeah,
to write music that he wants to write.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's really important. I mean, it's an interesting one because I don't think there's anything wrong with playing a role.
Yeah.
So if he was an actor, you wouldn't have any issues with like, well, he's just performing as this thing.
Mhm.
It's not him, it's his name, but he's playing a
Yeah.
character, which
Yeah.
so many people do, and that's absolutely fine. But I guess I think it's an age thing. I think you get to a point in your own personal evolution where you just really crave that authentic interaction with an audience,
Yeah.
or just want to drop the pretense and just breathe and be yourself,
Mhm.
and check that that's okay and that people
Yeah.
will still value you if you are yourself.
Yeah.
So
And that's and again, that goes back to being self-affirming and soothing, and
mm,
it's a really good way of doing a self-check on mental health.
yeah,
Where am I? Who am I?
yeah,
Am I in the right place? Who can help me get there if I'm not?
yeah.
But it's a really good way of doing it. Tell me how did you meet Steve Ignorant, by the way? I meant to ask you that.
I went and auditioned to be in his
Okay.
band.
Yeah.
So I'd not met him before, and I remember I went in the room, and there was four men there,
Yeah.
and I wasn't really sure which one was Steve.
Yeah.
So, but I think that really worked in my favour because they knew I wasn't like a mega fan.
Yeah.
Who was going to be hard work.
Yeah.
And I always say about that the audition, that I got the job because they thought, well, we could spend a month on a tour bus with her,
Right.
because she's all right,
Yeah.
rather than like she's really scary and he's asking Steve all the questions about what happened in 1979 and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just like that's
Yeah.
the reality a lot of the time. It's like who do you click with, who do you get on
Yeah.
with, who do you think is going to put the time in and do the work,
Yeah.
and they might not be the most perfect person for the job ever. They might not
Yeah.
be the most sensational musician, but it's all about vibe.
Yeah.
It's all about
Yeah.
getting on with people and
Yeah.
clicking, I think.
Yeah. Because life's too short to be putting up with relationships that don't give you something back.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And in that situation with music, it's like as long as because people always think there needs to be like a magical element to the relationship between people in bands or whatever.
Yeah.
And there doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
That can grow absolutely, like an alchemy can grow,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can, as a band, work to create something really special.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you just need people who can play the songs properly and aren't dickheads. So that's always a good starting point.
That's a fantastic starting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you can stand being in the room with them.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
so much more important than being with super talented people. I
Of
think
course
people
it
just
is.
don't give it enough credit for
Yeah.
just be cool.
Yeah. Because if you're with somebody that you can stand to be with, that's going to add a chemistry on stage or in a recording
Absolutely.
environment.
Yeah, and that's where it grows from. It grows from people liking and respecting each other. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Not going, ooh, look at the arpeggio he just played. Ooh, isn't it
Yeah.
fantastic? So your creative process then, when I was talking to Tommy before, he said, it just comes out of me.
Mhm.
I sit down and it just comes out. Do you have any kind of like rituals, or are you the same? It starts with a series of notes or a series of chords.
I can do that.
Yeah.
But what I like to do now is first of all be disciplined enough to have a writing routine, which
Okay.
means that for me at the moment, at least twice a week, I sit down at my piano with
Yeah.
all my recording gear and I write. And it
Okay.
doesn't matter what I write, I just
Yeah.
write for at
Yeah.
least an hour and crack the back of it and do it.
Yeah.
I also like to, and I've found that through doing this, I get way more interesting results.
Okay.
Is I like to light a candle.
Yep.
I like to light some incense.
Yep.
And I like to meditate for a few minutes.
Yep.
With the intention of I'm opening up my creative channel.
Excellent.
And whatever is out there in the ether,
Yep.
feel free to come and join me. Feel
Yep.
free to communicate through me. I'm open to ideas. And I don't know what happens. I don't know if that process gives my brain permission to access my creative bit.
Yeah.
And makes me feel like more valid in doing that. That I've been a bit weird and I've put myself into that space of like, you can be weird and do whatever you want now, Carol. Maybe it's like an affirmation in my head.
Yeah.
Or maybe, as Edward Elgar said, there's music in the air all around all around us.
Yeah.
And all we need to do is just take it whenever we want.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a powerful and beautiful image of this idea that as we go through life, there's a frequency or there's, a wavelength or whatever it is, a dimension, I don't know, but it's just there. Yeah. And there's all these ideas and things from the past and things from the future just swirling around us all the time. And it is possible to tune into that and draw it towards you.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I think that is that's a way of thinking that I could definitely agree with.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's real. None of us do. How can you? You can't prove it.
No.
Otherwise.
You don't need to prove it though, do you?
Yeah.
You just need to be grateful that if it's that or not, that you are getting into a creative zone.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And you're being productive and you're soothing, you're getting all of those things that you need, which is then making a song which then will go on and help somebody else or inspire somebody else or make somebody fall in love. There's all of those things which are byproducts of your songs, which may well come from the stream.
Yeah.
We just trademarked that name for it, by
the
the way.
Stream, I love
the
it.
Stream.
Yeah. Capital T, capital S, yeah.
That'll do it. Oh God, somebody's going to put that on bloody social media, aren't they? Or something like that. Please don't. yeah, if it comes from there, great. If it comes from somewhere else, great.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you can tap into it through whatever process you tap into it. Personally, I'm glad you can do that. You know, that's just great. You know, it keeps
Yeah,
on
and it,
great.
you know, and it is, but it is a discipline as well. I used to very much be of the persuasion that inspiration would strike me, and
Yeah,
that's when I would take myself to the piano and write.
yeah,
But life doesn't work like that. Schedules don't work like that. You
no.
can't just all of a sudden be in front of a piano and writing when the moment you need to be. So yeah, I've definitely realised that access to the stream is like a tap you can turn on and off.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that idea of just spending 2 minutes lighting the candle, lighting the incense, getting into that meditative headspace, like that opens the floodgates, you know?
and you find that you are more productive, you are more accessible
Yeah,
in those
absolutely.
times.
But
That's great.
that could well be
Yeah,
because I've taught myself that that's what happens when I do the
yeah,
ritual.
yeah,
Maybe it happened the first time, but it would have
yeah,
happened anyway.
yeah.
So it's like a, confirmation bias almost.
Mhm,
It's like,
yeah,
well, every time I do this, I
yeah,
get better ideas.
yeah,
So I've maybe just
yeah.
tricked myself into thinking that.
Don't question it too much in case you break it. Just keep going. I'm grateful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always be thankful, definitely.
Yeah. Always be thankful. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, then the counter to that then is what happens when creativity doesn't strike?
Um, in which case, I just write anyway.
Okay.
Because there'll always be, all right, I make it into a game. So I made myself a set of cards that are basically, without going into too much detail. So
Mhm.
some of them are like genres.
Yeah.
Some of them are bands that I like.
Yep.
And then there's major and minor chords, like all the
Mhm.
major and all the minor chords. And I'll literally just pick like maybe 4 chords at random and be
Yeah.
like, right, this is my starting point. It's going to be a song about death in the
Yeah.
style of Weezer.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, there's my starting point.
Yeah.
So I use things like that, little techniques. If I'm
Mhm.
really stuck, then I'll
Yeah.
make it into a game.
And that's the thing about discipline again, isn't it? That you recognize that creativity isn't coming, or that special moment isn't coming,
Mm,
but you still cracking on. You're pushing yourself. You're saying, I need to do this. I need to be putting something there.
yeah.
I can't get to the end of today or the end of the session and have nothing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I try really hard to think of future Carol. I just think,
Okay.
right, what will help Carol tomorrow?
Yeah.
And the answer is always to do the work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
So
already know the answer.
so go on then. Where is future Carol?
Future Carol.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't exist yet. Or maybe she
I
does exist.
know she does in an alternative stream. Come on.
Yeah, well, there's the whole multiverse theory, isn't there, as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Future Carol is more more consistent. That's something I'm always striving for.
Okay.
And it's something that I've definitely improved on a lot,
Yeah.
largely since being sober. That's definitely helped my brain with being consistent and
Yeah.
doing the work and viewing a career as something that grows over time
Mhm.
and is the result of consistent and authentic work.
Yeah.
So
It's fun.
she'll be embracing those concepts
Yeah.
more readily
Yeah.
than current Carol is.
Yeah.
And as long as that's happening, I really don't mind what else going on.
Okay. And if this isn't too personal a question, does current Carol feel the benefit from not drinking?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been sober for almost 4.5 years now.
Oh, congratulations. That's,
And yeah, it's been an absolute game changer for
yeah.
me. And yeah, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have released 4 albums since 2018 if
Yeah.
I'd been drinking
Okay.
throughout. So yeah.
So
Helped with that.
it was almost like a tap turned off.
Well, no, because I still wrote when I was
Yeah.
drinking. I still, wrote songs, but it was more my attitude towards everything. I just kind of coasted through
Okay.
stuff and let other people steer things and
Mm.
just went along with things. Whereas now I feel like, no, I'm taking the reins.
Yeah.
And I have a direction of travel, and that's important because being, autonomous and, I run my own record label.
Yep.
Because I don't want to just wait around to see if somebody wants to sign me, and make me work for them.
Yeah.
I just feel like, no, I want to put stuff out regularly, so
Yeah.
I'm going to take control of that situation.
And you are putting stuff out regularly as well. It's great because when you find an artist, you want to look at a back catalogue,
Mhm.
and sometimes the back catalogue is of varying quality,
Yeah.
or just not there. And God, I sound like a proper fanboy again, but I've really enjoyed working backwards.
Right, nice.
Yeah, because there's different sounds on each album. There's like a killer synth lead on. I can't remember the name of the track now. I think it's on the Crippling Space Between.
Mhm.
There's a really good like a saw synth lead in there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
think
love.
off the top of my head.
Yeah, I love working backwards, so you get to where the artist started from.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's just the funny way my brain works. So have you done your guests or your supporting slots with the Anchoress, or have you got them to do?
I've just got one gig with her.
All right, okay.
And it's Monday the 1st of May at the
Okay.
parish in Huddersfield. I'm not sure when this is going out, but I'll say it anyway.
It's going to be released on the 1st of May.
Oh well, there you go then. So if you're free tonight,
Yeah, pop
come
along.
down to the parish in Huddersfield.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because Catherine is one of the people. So I have like a few people that I would call expanders,
Okay.
and they're artists who are doing something in a similar wheelhouse to me, but are a little bit more accomplished, established, been doing it a bit longer, got a bigger audience, but that I really like and really kind of admire.
Yeah.
Because I'm always learning. I'm learning about how other songwriters think, how producers produce, how particularly like female artists represent themselves, and how they communicate their ideas and what their online persona is like, and all those kind of things. So I'm always kind of learning and watching other people.
Yeah.
And so she was like really high up on the list for me, and I saw she was playing at the parish, and so I asked to go. Basically what happens is when touring artists need a local support band, they ask for a list of potential people, and that then usually goes to the booking agent, and then they make a decision on who they want to support. So yeah, I got that spot, which I was really blown away by. And since then I've been like chatting to Catherine, and we've been sort of working on the promo together and everything, and she's just way even more lovely and amazing than I expected it to be. So that's a really nice bonus, when you actually
that is a good bonus.
Chat to someone and you're like, oh, she's even cooler than I imagined. That's great. So,
that's great. And I suppose the benefit for you is that her audience will be kind of like tuned in because
So I'm really excited about that gig because I'm hoping that I like there's no explanation required. I can just do what I do, and people will be like, well, yes, we're already here to see a piano playing female singer-songwriter, so this is great.
Another bonus.
Yeah, hopefully, anyway.
That's great. And the thing with working with an artist like Catherine as well is that you never know where it will lead to.
Well, yeah, and the older I get, the more I'm very much of the belief that any sort of like future boosts in my career or collaborations or whatever, I really want them all to come from a place of authenticity and respect and admiration, as opposed to, well, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours or whatever, and you end up in situations that are just a bit awkward and aren't really serving you or the other person. So I'm kind of I like to view what I'm doing as a bit of a magical adventure. So I'm excited to see which meandering route it's going to take. So yeah,
it truly is exciting. It's a fantastic opportunity. It really is. Are there any artists that are on your bucket list to collaborate with?
Oh, where to start? Probably quite a lot. I always think I was talking to someone about this the other day. Excuse me, just 1 minute. I'm just gonna let my cat out.
Sure, yeah.
Come on then, you're coming out. Good girl. Right. Sorry about that. So I always think that the best people to collaborate with and the ones I get most excited about will be people that I really looked up to when I was younger.
Okay.
So I'm very fortunate in that I've already, worked quite a lot with Ginger from the Wild Hearts.
Yeah.
I did a tour last year with Ginger and John Poolbuff from the Wild Hearts. And John Poole was in the Cardiacs, who are another band that I loved. And yeah, so for me, it's about that, like, oh my gosh, what would Teenage Carol think of this? So with that in mind, I would guess somebody like Andy Cairns from Therapy.
All right, yeah.
Will definitely be on my list.
Yeah.
Billie Joe Armstrong from Green Day.
Yeah.
I think Teenage Me would probably die if that ever came to pass.
Yeah.
For some reason, I always think of Annie Lennox.
All right, okay.
I'd love to do something with her.
Yeah.
Marcella Detroit.
Yeah.
From Shakespeare Sister. I think she's got an incredible voice.
Yeah, and I can see that with your sound as well. I can see her voice.
Oh, I'd love to just write a song for her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
she's,
yeah.
So incredible. Probably somebody like a Susie Sue, obviously.
Yeah.
Dave Vanian.
Yep.
Skin from Skunk Anansie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of people that I will never probably be in a room with, but you can't hope. You never know what happens.
Yeah, I think when we catch Future Carol up, we'll say, "Have you ever been in a room with Annie Lennox?"
Well,
we might get a nice surprise.
You might just get a squeal. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it'll just be a squeal. Yeah,
it was great. She was so nice.
Oh. And then, obviously, people like Elton John.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to happen, and I'm not.
You never know.
Hinging anything on it, but yeah.
Yeah, but you never know. So what's the next, I don't know, 12, 24 months got in shape for you? Have you got are you working on another album yet? Is it starting to gestate? Is it starting to take some kind of shape?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always writing, so there's always new ideas and new. It definitely feels like my sound's evolving. I've just acquired a bass and a guitar recently.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I keep getting loads of ideas for riffs that I can't quite articulate properly on a MIDI piano.
Yeah.
Because like you can do certain things that sound like a guitar, but it's just better to actually have a guitar to get the sense of groove and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I keep thinking about more riffy things. I have a Patreon, and I'm releasing a weird experimental album just for my patrons this year.
Okay.
Which is just something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I just thought I'd try out on them, see what happens. I'm also planning on doing a covers album, which kind of harking back to what we were talking about, is basically songs from artists that really inspired me.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm aiming to do that as much just me and a piano as possible. Okay. So for example, I already do a cover of the song Smash by The Offspring. Yeah. Which is a full-on sort of hardcore punk song, but it's just me and a piano, so it becomes like a gothic ballad.
Nice.
So that kind of thing, you just messing around with the original songs and making them my own a little bit, just as a sort of a thank you sort of thing. And then I'm working on my new album. I'm in the studio in September, and I have an idea for the next 2 albums. But I need to do a lot more writing before things become like take on any sort of clarity. So that's all I'll say at the moment. I know the direction of travel, but I haven't gone down the road far enough yet to be able to give any sort of hint as to what to expect.
Okay, there's an American singer-songwriter. I don't think that's her primary occupation, but she's a singer-songwriter on the side, called Ali Gertz. Right. Who's just crowdfunded for a cover of 9 Inch Nails songs.
Oh, okay.
All acoustically. So it's either acoustic guitar or
Mhm.
guitar and piano.
Nice.
And if you're familiar with the song Closer, which
Of
has some
course.
very interesting imagery in it,
Mhm.
hearing that done as an acoustic piano song is
Yeah.
yeah, it's really good. She's on Instagram. She posts lots of clips on there, and she's coming on here hopefully in the next month or so.
Nice.
Yeah, but that was it. Always, I'm always intrigued by how different artists would approach a song.
Yeah. In terms
Yeah,
of cover.
yeah. In terms of a cover where you've got an established sound, an established feel as an
Mm.
artist, and then you go, well, I'm going to take that song from there, which we're all familiar with a
Yeah.
sound and a feel, and then you superimpose yours over the top. And I'm
Yeah.
always intrigued by how good artists can do that seamlessly. You know, I've been quite critical about this on another podcast, but the new U2 album, where they've
Not heard it.
revisited some of their don't
Right.
okay. Basically, they've gone back through the back catalogue and picked up the songs which they think are their best songs and re-recorded them,
Right.
but in a different fashion.
So reinterpreted them sort of
Yeah,
thing.
and it
Yeah.
sounds like a really bad tribute act.
Oh dear. Right.
Yeah, which isn't, you know, they are where they need to be
I mean,
corporately
the
and
Joshua
musically.
Tree is an incredible album.
It is, yeah, yeah. But
Um,
I think personally they stopped at Actung Baby and then maybe started to go downhill
disappear
a
up
little
a
bit.
certain path.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Bono, but yes.
Yeah.
um, so I've got a couple of silly questions now, if you don't
Mhm.
mind. Okay, so you wake up tomorrow morning. Headline says, Hollywood making movie of Carol Hodge life.
Right.
Who's going to play you?
Do you know, I was joking about this with my boyfriend last night.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know why, but I said Drew Barrymore
Oh yeah, yeah,
just because I think she'd get my, I don't know, my
yeah,
sort of silliness and sarcasm,
yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, I can go with that. What was the other one? Was yeah. Um, you're in charge of writing your own headstone. What do you
Mm.
write on it?
Um. Oh, I'm trying. There's some really good pithy epitaphs out there, isn't
Pithy
there?
ones, yeah.
I'd have to think, but something like, I don't know, something like, it'd just be like, thanks with an
Yeah.
exclamation
See,
mark.
I told you I was ill.
Yeah, was that Spike Milligan?
It's Spike Milligan or Les Dawson. It
Yeah,
was one of those guys. It
I
was.
told you I was ill.
I told you I was ill.
Or
Yeah.
like it'd be something like, please cryogenically refreeze and like a date in the future, or like, yeah,
Yeah.
unfreeze, you know,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah. Best before date 2079.
Yeah, just something funny and
Yeah.
yeah.
And something which represented you,
Yeah,
which
if
is
I could
really good.
if from beyond the grave, I could
Yeah.
make upset people in a cemetery
Yeah.
chuckle,
Yeah.
then that's quite a good aim, I think.
I think it's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
I think it is. There was a guy who had a mobile phone planted in his coffin, which one of his friends rang, and
Yeah.
it played out. You know, don't forget me, I've not gone. You know, I'm only in the
Oh,
ground. You know, and which brought about laughter and
yeah,
tears. But
yeah, I
that was a
love that.
really lovely way to be remembered. Um, I think we've come to the end of
Cool.
of time.
The
What
end
can I
of all
say?
time.
No, at the end of all time,
It's
yeah.
quite an epic
And
start, isn't it?
and all that is a big black wall.
Yeah.
We can't go any further. I can't thank you enough. You know, you've taken time out to come onto a podcast which is brand spanking new, and I really appreciate you doing that for me. You know, it's just really good to meet somebody who is an established artist who's happy to talk about things and take a chance on somebody launching their, you know, stream of consciousness upon the world. So thank you.
Well, you know, you've done very well.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. If you want to have a look at Carol's website, it's www.carolhodge.co.uk. You've got your Instagrams, which I'll put on the description of the podcast. All of those links will be on there. I strongly recommend you go and get your iTunes, your Spotify, your whatever you use, and listen now. Do it straight away. We will be coming around to check if you have. in about half an hour. Don't forget, if you're in Huddersfield on Monday,
1st of May.
it's-
Yep,
yeah, Monday 1st of May, Carol supporting the Anchoress in the parish.
correct. Yes.
Yes.
Should be a good
Phew,
night. Yeah.
I got that right. Great.
And as well as
Okay.
Spotify and iTunes, buy
Yep.
my album on vinyl.
God, yeah, sorry.
You know, even better.
Even better. Yeah. Totally. Actually, buy the album first and then stream it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
right way around.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's been great having you on, and I truly appreciate the time.
Great to chat to you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you to our guest. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. Feel free to hit us up on any of the socials. And our website is www.mondostreet.co.uk. Looking forward to seeing you again on our next episode. Bye.